Capture the opening moment. This is the first of 4 tricks that every speaker must know if you want to become a master of the stage. So let me walk you through what these 4 techniques are. The first one is to use your voice to capture the opening moment. Let me tell you what not to do. Here's what most speakers do. They get introduced, they walk out on stage and they say, "Thanks for having me. It's so great to hear. It's so great to be here with you." Ugh, boring. Like nobody wants that to be the opening moment. Listen, there is one moment and only one moment where the entire audience is focused on you. It's the first moment. Do not squander it. Do not waste it with pleasantries. Instead, walk out on stage and immediately strike the match. Start the story. Start the experience. You can do that with a statistic. You can do it with a quote. You can dive right into a story, but make sure you know the first words out of your mouth, and then you can do pleasantries later. The second technique is to use the stage as a timeline. One of the things that I learned in the World Championship of Public Speaking is that you want to pretend that your stage is a timeline. Everything to stage right, which is the audience's left, everything over here represents the past. So when you talk about your childhood or when you were in high school or that lesson that you once learned or that hard time you went through, you want to put those things stage right, and it references the past. Every time you're talking about the future and who you want to be and who you want to become, and you're challenging the audience to reach their potential or be better or be different or to change, you want to reference stage left, the audience is right. Past, future, right, left. If you do this, you will become like one of the masters. The third technique is to do what we call hologramming the stage. And it is exactly that. Every time you tell a story, you need to give that story its own place on the stage. Think about it as if you were building a virtual set, right? So whenever you tell the story about your childhood, you walk over and you talk about what it was like growing up in your household and who was there. And if you've ever seen any of my videos talking about being raised by a single mom and my mom sold Mary Kay Cosmetics, I give it a space in its own area on the stage. And then I don't walk through that space again. It's anchored. It has its own protected place on the stage. If you do that for every single story, then what happens is you're using the stage, not by aimlessly wandering around. That's not using the stage. That's not being powerful. That's actually detracting from your power when you just aimlessly walk back and forth. You're utilizing the stage. You're reaching different parts of the audience by moving towards them. But the other part that's so powerful about hologramming the stage is that each place on the stage is anchored to a set of emotions and lessons. The emotions and lessons that you shared that came from that story are now anchored to a place on the stage. In my World Championship speech in 2007, I told a story about meeting a man who was in a wheelchair. And I sat down actually in a chair and I mimicked what it was like to look at him and how he sat. And when I told the story of how he died, I simply laid an American flag down on the chair. And the entire audience was gripped by the fact that this chair represented my old friend who was a veteran, Lenny Jacobs. That's the kind of emotional experience and magical moment you can create when you know how to hologram the stage. Now, the fourth technique is to use extended eye contact. Not just eye contact, extended eye contact. What most speakers do is they sort of browse the audience, right? They're looking at everybody, but they're not looking at anyone. The way that you connect on stage is to look at one person in their eyes, in their pupil, right? Can't you tell the difference when I'm looking at you versus when I'm kind of looking at you? It's amazing the difference it makes. So if you're in a large room, what you want to do is pick out one person in each area of that room, look right at that person, and what happens is everyone in that whole section feels like you're looking at them. It's the dynamic that it creates. As you get more coaching from our team at Brand Builders Group and you do the other things we do to teach you to build your personal brand and you write books and you become more well-known, you're going to get invited to speak on really massive stages like I do these days. And whenever that happens, you're actually going to have cameras. And whenever you're on stage in front of a camera, you have to realize that most people in the room are not looking at you physically on stage. They're looking at a screen of you up on the camera. And so if I am looking at them while they're in the audience, they're looking at the screen and it looks like I'm not looking at them at all. So by making eye contact with them in the room, I'm actually breaking eye contact with them on the camera. So once you get to the place where you're on the big stages and you're speaking in front of thousands of people, which is a really amazing place to get to, give the audience a treat by not looking at them, but instead looking at the camera. You make love to the camera, as they say. You make eye contact with the camera. You look right into the center of the camera, about 3/4 of the way up, as if the camera had a pupil right in the center lens, and you say, I am talking to you. And even though nobody is looking at you and you're not looking at anybody, you actually are looking at everybody. So those are just a few of the kind of mechanics and techniques and tactics and tricks and strategies that we have learned that make you a better speaker, that have nothing to do with your natural charisma. They have everything to do with great instruction, great coaching, and understanding the types of strategies that the best speakers in the world use. This is how I've gotten to be where I am, and this is why I coach many of the greatest speakers in the world. If you want to take your speaking to the next level, I want to invite you to request a call with our company. We do the first strategy call for free with everybody that we meet. You can just click on the link that is somewhere near this video and sign up and request a call with our team. You can learn to be a master of the stage. You can learn to be a master presenter. You can learn techniques and strategies and tips that will take your presentation skills to a whole nother level.